You've been brave for too long to let invisible fears tie your spirit down. You've walked through storms you thought would drown you, and yet here you are, breathing, trembling maybe, but still here. So tell me, child, will you let your mind be your master or your servant? You've survived every fear you thought would destroy you. Think about that for a moment. Every sleepless night, every trembling breath, every morning when you thought you couldn't get up again, and yet you did. There were times you stood on the edge of your own breaking, whispering to the darkness, I can't do this anymore. But somehow, even when your faith was cracked and your heart was tired, something inside you refused to surrender. Maybe it wasn't loud courage, maybe it was just a whisper, but that whisper kept you alive. You've walked through rooms where your own thoughts screamed at you. You've faced moments when your hands shook, when your heartbeat became a drum of panic, when the world felt too heavy for your chest to hold. But still you showed up, you kept going, even when no one saw how hard it was just to exist. That is not weakness. That is strength dressed in silence. That is courage hidden in trembling hands. Anxiety has a way of convincing you that survival is not enough. It tells you that you should be thriving, shining, doing more, while you're still learning how to breathe. But here's the truth. Survival is sacred. It means your spirit fought battles no one clapped for. It means you refused to let fear win. You've survived every fear you thought would destroy you. And that is not something small, that is something divine. Remember the first time you were consumed by worry? The way your mind spiraled into what-ifs and worst-case scenarios? The way your body tensed as if preparing for a war that never came? That was your fear talking, not your truth. Fear loves to dress itself as protection. It tells you, if I prepare for the worst, maybe I'll be safe. But preparation is not panic. Protection is not paralysis. You do not need to live on edge to survive. You survive those moments not because fear protected you, but because your soul refused to give up on peace. You are still here because there is something inside you that believes in tomorrow, even when today feels impossible. That small flicker of belief, that is your power. There were times you thought your anxiety defined you. You began to believe that the constant worry was simply who you were, but that's a lie your mind told you while it was trying to keep you safe. You are not the storm in your mind. You are the one who watches it, endures it, and still finds the sun when it clears. You are the witness, not the chaos. You are the one who survives it every single time. Each fear that once felt impossible is now a memory. Think of that. You have proof that you can overcome. You have proof that no matter how convincing fear seems, it always fades, and you always remain. You've cried before, and then smiled again. You've panicked, and then found calm. You've fallen apart and still managed to rebuild. So when anxiety returns, because sometimes it will, remind yourself, I have been here before, and I have survived worse. There is something sacred about people who have felt fear deeply and still dare to hope. They know what it means to be human. They understand compassion because they've met their own breaking point and kept their heart open anyway. That's what makes you beautiful. Not the absence of anxiety, but your decision not to let it rule you. Fear thrives in silence, but it loses its power when you speak. Talk about it. Tell someone, I'm struggling. You don't have to face it alone. The moment you name your fear, you take back a piece of your power. You remind yourself that anxiety is not who you are. It's something you experience, and experiences can pass. You've spent so long preparing for things that never happened. You've imagined disasters that never arrived. Your mind became a storyteller of tragedy. But you forgot that you are the author too. You can write new chapters. You can choose peace, even when fear begs for attention. You can say, I hear you, but I don't belong to you. Every day that you breathe through anxiety, you are teaching your body that peace is possible. Every time you choose calm instead of panic, rest instead of control, love instead of worry, you are rewriting your story. It doesn't happen overnight, but healing rarely does. Healing is a slow, patient unfolding. It's a series of small moments where you choose not to give up. It's waking up one morning and realizing the fear that once ruled you now only whispers. You've survived every fear you thought would destroy you, and that means you can survive the ones that haven't come yet. You have the tools now. You've learned how to breathe through storms. You've learned that not every thought deserves belief. You've learned that even in your lowest moments, you can still rise. There is a quiet power in you, a strength that does not boast or roar. It hums softly beneath your bones. It carries you through sleepless nights and uncertain days. It is the strength that kept you alive when everything in you said you couldn't go on. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's real and it's yours. Fear may visit you again. It may whisper at your window, reminding you of old wounds, but you don't have to invite it in. You can nod politely and say, I see you, but I'm busy living. Because life doesn't wait for fear to leave. It continues, and so do you. Don't measure your strength by how calm you appear. Measure it by how many times you've stood up, even when your knees shook. Measure it by how many days you showed up for life, even when your heart raced. Strength is not about the absence of fear. It's about continuing in its presence. You've built resilience from every tear, wisdom from every worry, peace from every panic. You've become softer and stronger at the same time, a rare kind of balance that only those who've battled anxiety understand. That balance is your superpower. You've survived every fear you thought would destroy you. That means the fear that lingers today has already lost. It may roar, but you've walked through louder storms. It may threaten to drown you, but you've already learned to swim. You've already proven that you can fall apart and still rise with grace. You are not broken for feeling afraid. You are not weak for trembling. You are not failing because your mind sometimes runs too fast. You are human and beautifully so. The world does not need your perfection. It needs your persistence. It needs your truth, your courage, your voice saying, I made it through. So when your next wave of fear comes, do not curse it. Smile gently at it. It is just another test, and you have already passed so many. Tell yourself, I have survived before, and I will survive again. Because that is what you do. You rise again and again until fear has no choice but to bow to your strength. And one day you'll look back and realize that the things that once terrified you became the very proof of your resilience. The fears that once felt unbearable will seem small beside the mountain of strength you've built. You'll stand taller, breathe deeper, and whisper to yourself, I was never weak. I was becoming. You've survived every fear you thought would destroy you, and you will continue to, because within you lives a power that no anxiety can cage, no fear can silence, and no darkness can erase. You are not your worries. You are the warrior who walked through them and still kept your light. Anxiety is not protection, it's a prison. You tell yourself that worrying keeps you safe, that by preparing for the worst, you can somehow prevent it from happening. But that is the lie anxiety whispers in your ear. It convinces you that control equals safety, that if you can predict every outcome, you'll never be hurt again. Yet what has it really given you? Has it ever truly protected you, or has it just kept you locked in a room made of your own fears? You build these walls thinking they will shield you. You tell yourself you're just being careful, just being aware, just trying to stay one step ahead. But slowly, without realizing it, those walls start closing in. You stop trusting peace because it feels unfamiliar. You start scanning every quiet moment for something to worry about. You start mistaking stillness for danger. And before you know it, the cage is complete. Built not from metal or stone, but from every what if that ever crossed your mind. Anxiety doesn't protect you. It only tricks you into believing it can. It wraps its hands around your thoughts and says, "I'm keeping you safe." But safety isn't the same as peace. Safety isn't the same as freedom. You can be safe and still be suffocating. You can be alive but not truly living. Anxiety convinces you that vigilance will save you, but all it really does is rob you of the moment you are already in. Think of how many times you've missed the beauty of now because your mind was already running ahead to tomorrow. You've watched sunsets you couldn't enjoy because you were thinking about the next day's problems. You've smiled at people while a storm raged silently in your chest. You've gone through entire days without remembering what it felt like to be calm. And the worst part is that you thought that was normal. You thought it was responsible. You thought being anxious meant you cared enough, prepared enough, loved enough. But love and fear cannot share the same space. One always pushes the other away. You learn to overthink as a way of staying safe. Maybe life taught you that bad things happen without warning. Maybe your heart was broken one too many times and you promised yourself never again. So now you rehearse every possible pain before it comes, thinking that if you feel it early, it won't hurt later. But that's the tragedy. You end up feeling it twice. Once in your mind and then again in reality. Anxiety makes you live every hurt before it even arrives, and in doing so, it steals every joy before it has a chance to bloom. You tell yourself it's better to expect the worst. But what if the worst never comes? What if all those sleepless nights, all those racing thoughts, all those fears were just ghosts that never planned to stay? Anxiety makes you pay the price of suffering for events that never even happen. It demands that you live in constant tension just in case something goes wrong. But life will never reward you for that kind of suffering. The world doesn't give medals for the worries you carried. It only asks softly and patiently, when will you let yourself rest? It's hard, I know. Anxiety doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like survival. It feels like that tightness in your chest is the only thing keeping you alert enough to stay alive. But what if you've mistaken alertness for aliveness? What if you've forgotten that being alive means being open, open to uncertainty, open to love, open to joy, open to pain, open to everything that makes life unpredictable but beautiful? You can't live fully while trying to protect yourself from every possible wound. The same walls that keep out pain also keep out happiness. The same thoughts that prepare you for loss also prevent you from receiving love. You cannot build a life out of what ifs. You can only live in the what is. Anxiety tries to convince you that it's your friend. It says, I'll help you avoid mistakes. It says, I'll make sure you're never caught off guard. But what it really does is keep you frozen in place. You overanalyze every decision, replay every conversation, anticipate every outcome. You call it preparation, but it's paralysis. You call it protection, but it's imprisonment. You can't move forward when every step feels like a threat. You can't breathe when your mind keeps telling you the air isn't safe. You see, anxiety feeds on control. The more you try to control the future, the more anxious you become. The more anxious you become, the less control you actually have. It's a cycle, one that drains your energy and dulls your spirit. The harder you fight to predict life, the less of it you truly experience. Because life isn't meant to be predicted, it's meant to be lived. Every day, anxiety asks you to trade your peace for a false promise of safety. It tells you, if you just think harder, plan more, prepare better, maybe you won't get hurt. But the truth is, you'll get hurt sometimes. Everyone does. No amount of worry can stop that. Pain is part of being human, and so is healing. You are built to recover, to adapt, to rise again. You don't need fear to keep you safe. You need faith to keep you free. Faith doesn't mean pretending everything will be perfect. It means trusting yourself to handle whatever comes. It means believing that you can survive uncertainty because you already have many times. You've walked through nights that seemed endless. You've faced moments that made you question your strength. And yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still learning. Anxiety told you that the world is dangerous. But have you noticed how many gentle things still exist within it? The laughter of someone who loves you, the warmth of sunlight through your window, the quiet comfort of your own heartbeat. The world is not out to get you. It is simply waiting for you to participate again, to stop hiding behind your fears and start trusting your steps. Freedom doesn't come from having everything under control. It comes from knowing you don't have to. It comes from learning to let things unfold without demanding certainty at every turn. Freedom means being able to say, I don't know what will happen next. And that's okay, because the truth is, you were never meant to know everything. You were meant to live, to feel, to grow, to stumble, to begin again. Anxiety may still knock on your door. It may still whisper warnings that make your chest tighten and your thoughts spin. But you don't have to invite it in anymore. You can let it stand outside, talking to itself, while you continue to live your life. You can acknowledge its presence without letting it dictate your choices. You can feel fear without feeding it. You are not your anxiety. You are the awareness behind it. You are the one who notices it come and go like clouds drifting across your sky. You are the vastness beneath the storm. You are the stillness that exists even when your mind is loud. The moment you realize that, the prison door begins to open. It's not easy to unlearn the habit of worry. It's not simple to silence the voice that says, be careful, be ready, be afraid, but you can begin one breath at a time. Every time you choose to focus on the present moment, you weaken anxiety's hold. Every time you take a deep breath instead of following the spiral of thoughts, you remind yourself that peace is possible. Every time you choose trust over fear, even for a second, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. Anxiety is not protection, it's a prison, and you don't belong behind its bars. You were not created to live in constant tension. You were made to move, to love, to experience the full rhythm of life. You were made to look fear in the face and say, you don't own me. You were made to let go of control and still feel safe. You were made to walk freely even when the path is uncertain. There will always be things you can't predict. There will always be moments that scare you. But that's not a reason to shrink. It's a reason to expand, to open your arms wider, to breathe deeper, to live more fully. Because the purpose of life was never to avoid fear, it was to rise above it. So take a deep breath, feel your heart steady itself. You've spent enough time guarding yourself from imagined dangers. The world is not waiting to hurt you, it's waiting to meet you. The door of the prison is open now. Step out, let the air touch your skin. Let peace, unfamiliar but kind, wrap itself around you. Let the weight of false protection fall away. You don't need anxiety to keep you safe. You only need the courage to live. You are not your thoughts. That single truth has the power to change the way you see yourself and the world around you. You've been taught to believe that the voice in your head, the one that narrates, worries, criticizes, and questions, is who you are. But it isn't. That voice is just noise echoing through your mind. Sometimes it's kind, sometimes it's cruel, and sometimes it speaks in the tone of old pain that never truly belonged to you. You are not that voice. You are the awareness listening to it. Your thoughts are visitors. They come and they go. Some stay longer than you want them to. Some arrive uninvited in the middle of the night. Some whisper doubt. Others scream fear. But no matter how loud they get, you are still the one watching them come and go, the one who observes the storm without becoming the storm, the one who feels the weight of worry without being the worry itself. That is who you are. The mind can be a trickster. It tells you stories, many of which are not true. It replays your past mistakes like broken records. It invents futures that haven't happened yet and convinces you they already have. It can take one small seed of fear and grow it into a forest that blocks out the sun. And if you're not careful, you start to believe that those thoughts define you. You start to think, if my mind says I'm not enough, maybe I'm really not. But that's not truth. That's programming. That's the noise of every hurt you've ever carried echoing back at you. You've been living inside your thoughts for so long that silence feels unfamiliar. You've been at war with your mind, trying to control what it says, trying to stop it from spinning out of control. But the more you fight, the louder it becomes. Because thoughts are not meant to be controlled, they're meant to be observed. You don't stop the river from flowing. You learn how to stand beside it without being swept away. You don't silence the wind. You learn how to listen without letting it shake your roots. There are days when your mind becomes a battlefield, memories versus dreams, fear versus hope, logic versus love. It's exhausting, isn't it? You wake up already tired because even in your sleep, your mind keeps running. You start to think something is wrong with you. But nothing is wrong with you. Your mind is doing what it was designed to do. Think. Its nature is movement. Its nature is chatter. The problem isn't that your thoughts are loud. The problem is that you've forgotten they are not you. You are the stillness underneath all that noise. You are the quiet presence that watches thoughts rise and fall like waves on the ocean. The waves may crash, but the ocean remains. Thoughts may come and go, but you, the awareness, the consciousness, stay unchanged. You've been mistaking the ripples for the water itself, but the water was always you. When a thought tells you you're not enough, that doesn't make it true. When a thought says you'll never heal, that doesn't mean you won't. Thoughts are like clouds passing across the sky. Some are dark and heavy. Some are light and fleeting, but none of them stay forever. And the sky, that vast, endless blue, never becomes the clouds that pass through it. The sky remains the sky. You remain yourself. There's a quiet freedom that comes when you realize this. You stop arguing with your thoughts. You stop begging them to be kind. You stop trying to think your way into peace. Instead, you simply notice them. You let them pass. You say, there goes fear, or there goes judgment, or there goes the old story again. You watch, you breathe, you stay, and soon you see you are not what you think. You are the space where thinking happens. It's easy to believe every thought that appears in your head. After all, they sound like your own voice. But not everything that sounds like you is for you. Sometimes your thoughts repeat words spoken to you years ago. The harsh teacher, the cold parent, the cruel lover, the disappointed friend. You carry those voices inside you, thinking they're your own. But they're not. They're echoes, and you have the power to stop believing them. Imagine if you believed every cloud was a permanent part of the sky. You'd think the sun was gone forever. You'd forget what light looks like. But the sun never leaves. The clouds only pass. The same is true for your peace. Your calm is always there, just hidden behind the fog of thought. When you learn to wait, to breathe, to trust the passing, the fog lifts and the light returns. You are not your anger. You are not your doubt. You are not your pain. You are the awareness that sees them come and go. When anger rises, it's a wave. Let it crest and fall. When sadness visits, it's a cloud. Let it rain and clear. When anxiety shouts, it's thunder. Let it echo, but don't become the storm. You are the sky that holds it all. You are the silence between thoughts, not the noise within them. Your mind can tell you 1,000 lies, but your soul always knows the truth. The truth is that you are enough. You are whole even when your thoughts say otherwise. You are loved even when your mind doubts it. You are growing even when you can't see the change. The mind deals in illusions. The soul deals in essence. And essence does not need to be proved. It simply is. The next time your mind starts spinning stories, try this. Pause. Don't run from the thought and don't fight it. Just watch. See it appear, live, and fade. See how every thought eventually dissolves on its own. That's the proof. Thoughts are temporary, but you are eternal. The voice in your head changes tone, changes topic, changes shape, but you, the listener, remain unchanged. When you begin to separate yourself from your thoughts, something magical happens. You start to feel lighter. The weight of judgment starts to lift. The constant need to analyze everything starts to soften. You start living in the present again, not lost in memories, not worried about the future. You begin to realize that peace was never gone. It was simply buried beneath the noise. You can have fearful thoughts without becoming a fearful person. You can have sad thoughts without becoming sadness itself. You can think something without it being true. Once you understand this, you reclaim your freedom. You stop identifying with every emotion, every passing idea, every inner monologue that tries to pull you under. You start choosing what to believe and what to release. The truth is, thoughts are not facts. They're just suggestions. They are options you can accept or decline. You have the power to say, no, that's not my truth. You have the right to think again, to think kinder, to think freer. The power was always yours. You just forgot it while trying to survive your own mind. So when that voice rises again, the one that says you're failing, the one that whispers you're unworthy, the one that insists you'll never find peace, don't argue with it. Don't feed it. Just smile gently and say, you're just a thought, and I am not you. Then take a breath, step back, and let it pass, because it will. It always does. You are not your thoughts. You are the vast, unshakable awareness beneath them. You are the sky, the witness, the light, and no matter how many clouds may come, you remain whole, infinite, and free. Breathe intentionally. It sounds simple, almost too simple to change anything, yet it's one of the most powerful acts you can perform. Breathing is the rhythm of life, the quiet proof that you are still here. Most of the time, you breathe without noticing. Your chest rises, your lungs fill, air comes and goes, and life continues. But when you start to breathe intentionally, something shifts. It's no longer just air entering your body, it's peace entering your soul. The world moves fast. You rush from moment to moment, chasing deadlines, solving problems, worrying about tomorrow, replaying yesterday. Your breath tries to keep up, but it becomes shallow, anxious, rushed. You forget that you can pause. You forget that within your own breath lives a sanctuary, a place of calm that no one can take from you. To breathe intentionally is to return home to yourself, even when everything around you feels out of control. Every deep breath is a reminder that you are alive right now, not in the past, not in the future, but in this very instant. When you breathe with awareness, you claim the present moment. You stop running for a few seconds, and in that stillness, you realize you were never truly lost. You were just distracted. You were holding your breath through life, waiting for permission to exhale. Breathing intentionally is an act of rebellion in a world that glorifies chaos. It's saying, I will not rush my spirit to meet a world that never slows down. It's refusing to let anxiety dictate the rhythm of your heart. It's choosing to respond, not react. When you breathe deeply, you tell your body, it's safe now. Your mind begins to listen, the noise softens, the thoughts lose their sharpness. The chaos doesn't disappear, but it loses its power to drown you. Have you ever noticed how your breath changes with emotion? When fear rises, your breath shortens. When anger burns, it quickens. When sadness visits, it becomes heavy, almost hesitant. Your breath is the language of your soul. It tells the truth even when your mouth cannot. It speaks the words your heart is too tired to say. That's why learning to breathe intentionally is learning to listen to yourself again. In moments of anxiety, your breath becomes your anchor. You can't always silence your mind, but you can guide your breath. You can inhale peace and exhale tension. You can breathe in strength and let go of fear. You can use every inhale as a declaration. I am still here. I am still trying. I am still capable of calm. And every exhale as a release. I let go of what I can't control. I let go of what is not mine to carry. Intentional breathing isn't about escaping reality. It's about grounding yourself within it. Life won't stop throwing challenges your way. The noise won't disappear. But with each mindful breath, you create space between yourself and the chaos. You remember that you are not the storm. You are the air that flows through it. There's something almost sacred about watching your breath. It connects you to every living thing. The trees breathe, the oceans breathe, even the earth seems to rise and fall in rhythm with your lungs. You are part of that vast pulse. When you breathe intentionally, you tap into that universal rhythm, the same one that moves tides and sways leaves and keeps the stars in motion. You realize that peace was never something you had to find. It was always moving through you, one breath at a time. In moments of panic, you forget to breathe. You hold it as if by controlling the air you can control the fear. But fear doesn't shrink through control. It softens through surrender. Breathe into it. Don't fight it. Let the air reach the corners of your chest that fear has tried to tighten. Let oxygen meet the places inside you that forgot what openness feels like. With every breath, whisper to your body, it's okay. I am safe. I am here. The act of breathing is ancient. Long before words, long before reason, there was breath. The first thing we do when we arrive in this world, and the last thing we do before we leave it. Everything in between is marked by the rise and fall of our lungs. The quality of your life, in many ways, mirrors the quality of your breath. Fast, shallow breathing reflects tension. Deep, slow breathing reflects trust. When you breathe intentionally, you teach your body that it's allowed to rest even in movement, that calm isn't something you chase, it's something you choose. Try to notice the way your body feels when you take a real, deliberate breath. The shoulders drop, the heart rate slows, the muscles loosen. Your thoughts begin to drift apart, leaving room for clarity. For a few seconds, you remember that being alive doesn't have to feel like running. It can feel like arriving. It can feel like stillness. You don't need a quiet room or perfect posture to breathe intentionally. You can do it while standing in a crowded place, while sitting in traffic, while lying awake in the middle of the night. You can close your eyes, draw the air deep into your lungs, and let it out slowly. That one act says, I refuse to let this moment control me. Breath by breath, you reclaim your peace. There's something healing about focusing on the simplest part of existence. You spend so much time thinking about what's gone wrong, what might go wrong, what you should have done, what you still need to do. But when you breathe intentionally, none of that matters. There's no past, no future, only this inhale, this exhale. In that simplicity, life feels manageable again. You are not powerless when you can breathe. The air doesn't belong to anyone. It's the one gift that is always freely given. When everything else feels uncertain, when love fades, when plans fall apart, when the world feels too loud, your breath remains. It asks for nothing and offers everything. It reminds you that no matter how much changes, you still have this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. Breathe intentionally, not because it fixes everything, but because it reconnects you to yourself. It teaches you that peace doesn't come from the outside, not from people, not from places, not from perfection. It comes from your willingness to pause and feel your own existence without judgment. When you breathe intentionally, you stop abandoning yourself in the rush of life. You return to the home that was always within you. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is simply breathe. Not fight, not run, not fix, just breathe. Because every deep breath says, I choose to stay. It says, I choose to believe there's still time to heal. It says, I will not let fear take my breath away. And slowly your body begins to trust you again. The heart steadies, the mind quiets, the soul remembers. So breathe intentionally, not just when you're calm, but especially when you're not. Breathe when your thoughts are racing, when your chest feels tight, when the world seems to spin too fast. Each breath is a message to yourself. I am alive, and that is enough for now. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be honest. You don't need to fill the silence with answers. Sometimes you only need to fill your lungs with air. Breathe when you're happy, to soak in joy. Breathe when you're grieving, to carry the weight gently. Breathe when you're lost, to remember that the way back is always within. The breath is both anchor and compass, keeping you steady while showing you the way forward. And as you keep breathing with awareness, something extraordinary happens. The noise inside you softens. The weight of the world feels a little lighter. The fear doesn't disappear, but it no longer rules you. You begin to realize that everything you've been searching for, peace, clarity, strength, love, has always been here, waiting quietly beneath your breath. So inhale deeply and remind yourself, this moment is mine. Exhale slowly and let go of what no longer serves you. Breathe intentionally, and in doing so, remember that life was never meant to be survived in haste. It was meant to be felt, one conscious breath at a time. Don't chase every anxious thought. Let them come, let them pass, but do not follow. Your mind is a river, and not every ripple deserves your attention. Some thoughts are merely wind passing over the surface, momentary, fleeting, and without depth. But anxiety makes them look like storms, like warnings you must obey, like puzzles you must solve before you can rest. Yet the truth is, not every thought that feels urgent is true, and not every worry needs to be carried. When anxiety arrives, it whispers in your ear with the voice of authority. It tells you something's wrong. It demands that you fix, prepare, control, or escape. And before you even realize it, you are running and chasing every anxious thought as if it holds the answer to your safety. But anxiety doesn't want peace. It wants motion. It wants you to keep moving, to keep questioning, to keep doubting until you are exhausted enough to forget that you can stop. The art of not chasing every anxious thought is the art of learning to pause. You are not required to believe everything you think. You are not required to fight every worry that knocks on the door of your mind. You can simply notice it. A flicker of fear, a passing what if, a memory trying to claw its way back, and choose not to engage. This is not avoidance. This is wisdom. This is you remembering that not all thoughts are messengers, some are just echoes. Your anxious thoughts are not prophecies. They are habits. Loops your mind runs because it has been trained to equate fear with control. But chasing them never brings control, it only brings chaos. You try to reason with them, disprove them, silence them. Yet the more attention you give them, the more real they feel. They grow stronger, louder, more convincing, until finally you realize that it's not the thought that's powerful, it's your reaction to it that gives it life. So when an anxious thought rises, imagine it as a bird flying through the sky. You can watch it without needing to catch it. You can let it exist without trying to trap it. Because the moment you reach out to grab it, you stop being free. Let the thought pass. Let it dissolve on its own. The sky doesn't mourn the bird that flies away, and neither should you mourn a thought that leaves. The truth is, your anxious thoughts are often wrong. They exaggerate danger, distort perspective, and shrink your sense of possibility. They say, you can't handle this. But look at your life. You have handled so much already. You've survived moments you thought would break you. You've walked through storms that looked endless. And yet, here you are. That means your anxiety isn't a prophet, it's just noise. Loud, persistent, but still just noise. You can choose to sit beside your anxiety without obeying it. You can listen to it without letting it drive your life. Like a storm, it may roar, but storms always pass. When you learn not to chase every anxious thought, you begin to understand the difference between awareness and obsession. Awareness says, I feel uneasy right now. Obsession says, something must be terribly wrong. Awareness helps you breathe. Obsession makes you drown. Imagine your thoughts like clouds drifting through a vast sky. Some are light and harmless, others dark and heavy. But they all move. You are not the clouds, you are the sky. Infinite, steady, unmoved. The thoughts can come and go, but they do not define you. The problem begins when you start running after the clouds, trying to catch them, trying to force them to make sense. The more you chase, the further peace moves away. Sometimes anxiety comes disguised as responsibility. It tells you that if you don't think through every possibility, something bad will happen. It convinces you that worry is a form of care. But worry is not love. It's fear pretending to be useful. You cannot think your way to safety. You can only breathe your way to calm, trust your way to strength, and live your way to clarity. There is power in stillness, in letting the thought exist without reacting. When the anxious voice says, "What if everything goes wrong?" you can respond, "Maybe it won't." When it says, "You can't handle this," you can whisper back, "I've handled worse." You don't have to fight the voice, you just have to stop believing it so quickly. The more you practice this, the quieter the voice becomes. Chasing anxious thoughts is like running on a treadmill. You move endlessly, but go nowhere. You replay conversations, imagine worst-case scenarios, analyze every detail, and end up more tired than when you started. But when you learn to observe instead of chase, you save your energy for what truly matters. You begin to realize that peace isn't the absence of thoughts, it's the ability to not be carried away by them. There will be days when the thoughts are louder, days when they pull harder. That's okay. Strength doesn't mean silence. It means choosing again and again to let go. It means saying, "I don't need to solve this right now." It means giving yourself permission to rest even when your mind is restless. You don't owe every thought your attention. You don't have to wrestle every worry into submission. You can simply breathe, notice, and stay still. Your mind is capable of creating entire worlds that never exist. Anxiety loves those worlds, the ones filled with imaginary disasters and invisible dangers. But you don't have to live there. You can return to what is real. The sound of your breath, the feeling of your feet on the floor, the warmth of this moment. Reality is often gentler than the world your anxiety paints. Remember this. Thoughts are not commands, they are suggestions. You decide which ones to believe, which ones to release. And when you stop chasing every anxious thought, you begin to create space for something softer, clarity, hope, peace. Those things don't scream, they whisper. You have to quiet your mind to hear them. You've spent enough time running after every what if. You've exhausted yourself trying to prepare for things that may never happen. It's time to rest. It's time to let the mind spin without joining its dance. Let the thoughts move through you like wind through trees. You can sway, but you don't have to break. Peace is not found by controlling your thoughts. It's found by loosening your grip on them. Let them float, let them change, let them fade. The less you chase, the more still you become. And in that stillness, you'll find something that anxiety has tried to hide from you. The quiet, steady truth that you are safe, you are capable, and you are already enough. So the next time your mind begins to race, don't chase it. Watch it. Breathe. Trust that the storm will pass, as it always does. Because peace doesn't come from silencing the noise, it comes from remembering you don't have to follow it. Gentleness is power. It's not loud, it's not forceful, and it doesn't demand attention, yet it moves mountains in ways that anger and control never can. Gentleness is the quiet strength that doesn't need to prove itself. It is calm in the midst of chaos, grace in the face of cruelty, and patience where the world expects retaliation. To be gentle in a world that glorifies aggression is not weakness, it's mastery. True gentleness is born from deep confidence. Only those who know their strength can afford to be gentle. When you understand that your worth is not defined by dominance or noise, you stop fighting for validation. You no longer feel the need to win every argument or break everything that stands in your way. You simply stand still, unshaken, and let your peace speak for you. Gentleness says, I can choose peace even when I am capable of destruction. The world often mistakes gentleness for softness and softness for fragility. But think of water, soft to the touch, yet it carves through rock. It nourishes, it cleanses, it sustains life. And when it must, it reshapes the land itself. That is what gentleness does. It moves quietly but leaves nothing unchanged. It transforms without violence. It heals what harshness has broken. There is immense power in responding with calm when the world expects fury. When someone wounds you with words, gentleness allows you to pause instead of strike back. It gives you the wisdom to say, I will not let your chaos become mine. That restraint is not weakness, it's control. Control over your emotions, your energy, your peace. It's a declaration that your soul is not available for battle every time someone throws a stone. Gentleness doesn't mean letting people walk over you. It means choosing when to walk away. It means setting boundaries with compassion instead of cruelty. It's strength tempered with love, discipline softened by understanding. The gentle person can forgive without forgetting, love without losing themselves, and correct without humiliating. They move through the world like a steady current, guiding, not forcing, yet always shaping what they touch. To be gentle is to understand that force may win moments, but tenderness wins hearts. You can't scare people into change, but you can inspire them through kindness. You can't demand trust, but you can earn it with patience. Gentleness doesn't push, it invites. It doesn't control, it influences. It doesn't conquer, it heals. And in a world that feels increasingly harsh, being gentle is a radical act of courage. Gentleness requires self-awareness. You can't be gentle when your heart is full of unhealed rage. You can't offer calm when your mind is a storm. To be gentle, you must know your triggers, tend to your wounds, and cultivate stillness within. You must learn to breathe when anger wants to speak for you. That doesn't mean suppressing emotion. It means mastering it. It means choosing your response instead of surrendering to your reaction. There is a quiet elegance in the person who knows they could shout, but instead speaks softly. There's beauty in the one who listens more than they speak, who chooses empathy over judgment, and who carries grace even when the world gives them every reason not to. Gentleness is not the absence of power, it's the refinement of it. Think of the people who have touched your life the most, the ones whose presence made you feel seen, understood, accepted. Were they loud? Were they cruel? Or were they gentle? In tone, in gesture, in understanding? Gentleness is the language of the heart. It doesn't need translation. It speaks directly to the human spirit, reminding us that we are worthy of tenderness no matter how harsh the world has been. When you practice gentleness, you begin to see how everything around you softens in return. The tense conversation eases. The defensive person lowers their guard. The fearful child feels safe. Gentleness disarms the need to fight. It invites connection where hostility once lived. It's a force that doesn't conquer through strength, but through presence. Gentleness is not passive. It takes immense courage to remain kind in the face of cruelty, to keep your heart open after it's been broken, to speak with compassion when anger would be easier. Gentleness is active resistance, a refusal to become like what has hurt you. It's a choice to stand in love when fear demands retaliation. It's the decision to keep believing in goodness even when you've seen the opposite. When you choose gentleness, you take back control. You no longer let the outside world dictate your inner world. You stop being a mirror for negativity and start being a light. Gentleness doesn't deny pain. It acknowledges it and transforms it. It says, I've been through darkness, but I refuse to carry it forward. It says, I can respond with grace, even when I have every reason not to. That is power, the kind that doesn't fade when the noise ends. Gentleness can rebuild what anger destroys. It can reach places that harshness cannot touch. It can turn strangers into allies, pain into understanding, and endings into new beginnings. When you move gently through the world, you leave ripples, not of fear, but of warmth. You become someone others can breathe around, someone whose presence feels like safety. There will be people who mistake your gentleness for weakness. Let them. You don't need to convince anyone of your strength. True power never announces itself, it simply exists. The oak tree doesn't shout to prove it's strong, it just stands tall. The river doesn't boast of its depth, it simply flows. Gentleness is the same. Quiet, constant, unshakable. In your gentleness lies your resilience. Because when life tries to harden you, gentleness keeps you human. It reminds you that softness is not the opposite of strength. It is its greatest companion. To remain kind after being hurt, to remain calm when provoked, to remain open when the world tells you to close, that is power in its purest form. So when the world tests you, don't let it turn your heart to stone. Let it polish you instead. Speak softly, but with conviction. Move gently, but with purpose. Love deeply, but with discernment. You don't have to shout to be heard, nor fight to be strong. You just have to stand in your peace and let your gentleness do the talking. The world has enough sharp edges, enough noise, enough battles. What it needs more of are hands that heal, voices that soothe, hearts that listen. Gentleness is how we begin to mend what has been torn apart. It's how we remind others and ourselves that kindness is not outdated, that grace is not gone, that strength can still be soft. Gentleness is power because it changes everything it touches without losing itself. It bends without breaking. It feels deeply but remains steady. It moves quietly but leaves echoes that last. To live with gentleness is to carry peace where others carry pain. It is to choose love over control, calm over chaos, and compassion over pride. And one day you'll look back and realize it was never the loud moments that defined your strength. It was the quiet ones, the gentle ones, the ones where you chose to be kind when you could have been cruel.